Commander Jake Norrison stood at the main window of the research station New Geneva, staring at the dying star Kepler 442. The red giant filled half the view with its angry glow. After 3 years working here, he still found it beautiful in a dangerous way. He never thought this place would become the location where humanity received the worst news in their history. The communication room behind him buzzed with activity. His crew worked at their stations, monitoring signals from across the galaxy. Everything seemed normal until Lieutenant Amy Carter ran up to him with panic in her eyes. "Commander, we're getting an emergency broadcast from Earth. It's coming through all channels at once." Jake turned away from the window and followed Amy to the main screen. The face of Director Sam Davis appeared, looking older than Jake remembered. The man's usually calm expression showed deep worry. "To all human settlements, stations, and ships beyond the Sol system," Davis began, "I must inform you of a decision made by the Galactic Council of Advanced Species. As of today, humanity has been expelled from all interstellar territories and trade agreements." Jake felt his stomach drop. Around him, his crew stopped working and stared at the screen in shock. Davis continued, "The council vote was unanimous. All 15 alien species agreed that humanity poses a threat to galactic peace. They cite our aggressive nature and inability to evolve beyond what they call primitive behavior." Dr. Lisa Carter, the station's head scientist, stepped beside Jake. Her face had turned pale. "This can't be real," she whispered. "We have 30 standard days to evacuate all human presence beyond our home system," Davis said. "The aliens are already sending ships to escort our people home. They will not use force, but they made it clear that staying is not an option." The broadcast ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Jake looked around at his crew of 43 people. These were some of humanity's brightest minds, working on projects that could benefit all species in the galaxy. Now they were being told they weren't welcome among the stars. Communications officer Ben Harper broke the silence. "Sir, I'm picking up alien ships entering our sector. 3 vessels, heading straight for us." Jake moved to the sensor station. The ships appeared on screen as sleek, crystal-like forms that seemed to bend light around them. Zephyrian vessels. The crystal beings had always been polite to humans, but distant. Now they were coming to kick humanity out of their own research station. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a Zephyrian standing in what looked like a room made of living crystal. The alien's body was tall and thin, made of what appeared to be blue-white crystal that pulsed with air. Light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Human Commander Morrison, I am Crystal Song of Dawn. I come to oversee your departure from this facility." Jake stepped forward. "Ambassador, we've been working together for years. Our research here benefits everyone. Why are you doing this?" The Zephyrian's light dimmed slightly. "Your species shows promise in some areas, Commander. But the Council has observed human behavior across the galaxy for 50 years. You are too violent, too unpredictable. In time, you would threaten galactic peace." "We've never threatened anyone," Lisa Carter said, moving beside Jake. "We've shared our discoveries, helped with crisis situations, saved lives during the Proxima Plague outbreak. Individual actions do not change the nature of a species," Crystal Song of Dawn replied. "Humans fight too easily. You compete instead of cooperate. You seek dominance rather than harmony. The galaxy will be safer without your presence." Jake felt anger building in his chest, but forced himself to stay calm. "What about our equipment? Our research data? Some of these projects took years to develop. You may take personal belongings and any technology of human origin. All shared alien technology must remain. You have 48 hours to prepare for departure." The screen went dark. Jake stared at the blank display, trying to process what had just happened. Humanity had worked for decades to earn a place among the galactic community. They had followed every rule, respected every custom, tried to prove they belonged among the stars. Now it was all being taken away. Over the next day, similar scenes played out across human space. Captain Ryan Brooks commanded a transport fleet near the colony world of New Colorado. He watched helplessly as alien ships surrounded the planet and began the forced evacuation of 2 million human settlers. The colonists had built something beautiful on New Colorado. The cities blended with the natural landscape, using clean energy and sustainable farming methods. Children had been born there who had never seen Earth. Now they were being loaded onto ships like cargo, their faces showing confusion and fear. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "the collective ships are demanding we increase our loading speed. They say we're taking too long." The collective was a hive-minded species that thought and acted as one. To them, individual concerns meant nothing. Ryan watched as families were separated in the rush to meet alien deadlines. An elderly man collapsed while carrying his belongings, but the alien overseers simply moved around him. "Help that man," Ryan ordered his crew. "I don't care what the aliens say." On the research station, Jake worked with his team to pack their equipment. The aliens had been specific about what humans could take. Any device that contained alien technology, even if humans had improved it, had to stay behind. Their quantum computers, advanced medical scanners, and faster-than-light communication systems were all stripped away. Dr. Lisa Carter stood in her laboratory, looking at years of research that would have to be abandoned. She had been working on a cure for genetic diseases that affected both humans and several alien species. The work was almost complete, but it used alien biotechnology that she couldn't take with her. "It's not fair," she said to Jake. "This research could save millions of lives." "They don't care," Jake replied. "They've already decided we're not worth the risk." Ben Harper approached them with a tablet showing the evacuation reports. "Sir, the numbers are staggering. Over 400 million humans are being moved from colonies, stations, and ships across the galaxy. Most of them have lived their entire lives in space." Jake took the tablet and read the reports. Everywhere, the story was the same. Alien ships arrived with evacuation orders. Humans were given minimal time to pack personal belongings. All shared technology was confiscated. Then the slow journey back to Sol System began. The aliens provided basic life support for the journey, but nothing more. No entertainment, no comfort, no privacy. Humans were packed into cargo holds like unwanted freight being returned to Center Dot. The last day arrived. Jake stood once more at the observation window. The dying star still glowed angry red, but now it seemed to match his mood. Crystal Song of Dawn had informed them that their replacement would arrive within hours. A Lumina energy being would take over the research station and continue the work, without human involvement. "All systems are shut down and secured," Amy Carter reported. "Personal belongings are loaded on the transport." Jake nodded. Around the galaxy, the same scene was playing out. Hundreds of human facilities going dark. Thousands of research projects ending. Millions of people losing their homes among the stars. The transport ship arrived right on schedule. It was a basic human design, built for cargo hauling rather than passenger comfort. Jake and his crew loaded their few possessions and took their seats in the cramped passenger compartment as they pulled away from the station. Jake watched through a small portal as the Zephyrian ships moved in to take control. Within hours, it would be as if humans had never been there at all. The journey to Sol System took 3 weeks. During that time, Jake listened to reports from other evacuation groups. The stories were all depressingly similar. Families broken apart, careers destroyed, dreams shattered. The galaxy's other species watched with either indifference or relief as humanity was swept away. When they finally entered Sol system space, Jake saw something he had never expected. Hundreds of ships filled the space around Earth, Mars, and Var, the asteroid colonies. They were all human vessels, carrying the refugees from humanity's failed attempt to join Galactic Civilization as their transport docked with the orbital station above Earth. Jake felt the weight of what had happened. Humanity had been judged and found wanting. They had been cast out like troublesome children who couldn't play well with others. But as he looked at the faces of his crew, Jake saw something the aliens might have missed. Anger, yes, but also determination. Humans had always been fighters. Maybe it was time to stop apologizing for that and start using it. 5 years had passed since the Great Abandonment, and the Sol system looked nothing like it had before. Earth groaned under the weight of 4 billion extra people. Every city had expanded far beyond its original borders. Massive tent cities covered what used to be farmland. The orbital stations around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt worked day and night just to keep everyone alive. Director Amy Foster stood in the command center of the United Earth Survival Council, watching the daily reports scroll across her. Screens, food shortages in the African sectors, power failures in the European zones, riots in the South American districts. The same problems that had plagued humanity for months now. "Ma'am, we have another situation," her aide Ben Harper said. Approaching with a tablet full of bad news. Amy took the tablet and read the latest crisis report. The Mars colonies were running out of breathable air. The recycling systems couldn't handle the massive population increase from the evacuated outer colonies. They needed new equipment, but building it without alien technology proved nearly impossible. "What about the asteroid mining operations?" Amy asked. "Are they producing enough raw materials?" Ben shook his head. Engineer Carl Johnson says they're pushing the equipment past safe limits. Half the mining platforms are breaking down every week. We're fixing them with spare parts and hope. Amy walked to the main window and looked down at Earth. Even from orbit, she could see the sprawling refugee camps that covered most continents. 5 years ago, humans had been proud members of galactic civilization. Now they were refugees in their own home system in the asteroid belt. Engineer Carl Johnson floated in the zero gravity of Mining Platform 7, working on another broken fusion reactor. His hands were black with grease, and his back ached from 12 hours of repairs. Around him, his crew worked with the same desperate energy that had kept them going for 5 years. "Hand me that plasma torch," Carl called to his assistant, Jake Morrison. The former research station commander had volunteered for mining duty when they arrived back in Sol System. He said he needed to do something useful with his hands while his mind processed what had happened. Jake passed the tool and watched Carl work. "How much longer can we keep this up? These reactors weren't designed to run at this output level." Carl paused in his work and looked at the reactor core. The alien-designed components had been removed years ago, replaced with human engineering. The new parts were crude and bulky compared to the elegant alien technology, but they worked. More importantly, they were getting better. "You know what's funny?" Carl said. "The aliens always told us our approach was wrong. Too much brute force, not enough finesse. But look at this thing." He pointed to the modified reactor core, where the alien version had been a smooth, crystal-like structure that hummed quietly. The human version was a massive metal cylinder covered in cooling pipes and warning lights. It roared like a caged beast, but it produced 30% more power than the original design. The Zephyrians said this level of output was impossible for a species at our development level, Carl continued. "They said we didn't understand the fundamental principles of energy generation." Jake smiled grimly. "Maybe we don't understand their principles, but we understand ours." On Mars, Dr. Kate Williams worked in a laboratory that looked like something from a mad scientist's nightmare. Banks of computers lined the walls, their screens showing endless streams of genetic data. In the center of the room, volunteer test subjects lay in medical pods while machines scanned their bodies at the molecular level. Kate had been working on something the aliens claimed was impossible: genetic enhancement of already developed organisms. According to galactic science, DNA could only be modified during embryonic development. Adult organisms were too complex, their genetic patterns too established. But Kate had noticed something the aliens missed. Human DNA contained vast sections that appeared to be inactive. The galactic species called it junk DNA, useless evolutionary leftovers. Kate suspected it was something else entirely. Dr. Williams, we're seeing changes in Subject 12. Her assistant Lisa Carter called out. Kate hurried to the monitoring station. On the screen, she could see the enhanced muscle fibers in the test subject's arm. The volunteer, a former colony worker named Ryan Brooks, had been undergoing treatment for 6 months. His strength had increased by 40%. His reflexes were twice as fast as normal, and his cognitive abilities had improved dramatically. "How does he feel?" Kate asked. Lisa checked the readouts. "He says he feels better than he ever has in his life. More alert, more energetic. His body is processing toxins faster, healing from injuries quicker." Kate nodded and made notes on her tablet. The enhancement process used precise electromagnetic fields to activate the dormant sections of human DNA. Each treatment unlocked more of humanity's hidden potential. The aliens had been wrong about human limitations. In the shipyards orbiting Earth, Admiral Tony Clark watched as his workers completed another warship. The vessel was ugly by galactic standards. Where alien ships were sleek and graceful, human ships looked like flying fortresses. They were covered in armor plating, bristling with weapons, and powered by fusion reactors it could be heard from. "Space. She's not pretty," said his chief engineer, Max Collins. Floating beside him in the construction bay. Tony looked at the ship and smiled. "Pretty doesn't win fights. The aliens design their ships to impress other aliens. We design ours to survive and hit back." The new ship, designated as Earth Defense Vessel Guardian, represented 5 years of hard-learned lessons. When humanity lost access to alien technology, they had to redesign everything from scratch. The results were crude but effective. Alien ships relied on energy shields and sophisticated defensive systems. Human ships used thick metal armor. Where alien weapons fired precise energy beams, human weapons launched massive explosive projectiles. Where alien engines provided smooth, quiet propulsion, human engines roared with barely contained fusion fire. "The test pilot reports are interesting," Max said, checking his tablet. "Lieutenant Alex Turner says the ship responds like a fighter, despite being the size of a cruiser. The new pilots who've been through Dr. Williams's enhancement program can handle acceleration levels that would kill unmodified humans." Tony nodded. He had volunteered for the enhancement program himself. The treatments had changed him in ways he was still discovering. His reflexes were faster, his thinking clearer, his body stronger. Most importantly, he could withstand the brutal acceleration forces of the new human ships. Back on Earth, a new philosophy was taking hold among the refugee populations. Dr. Helen Ross stood before a crowd of 10,000 people in what used to be Central Park. The former alien liaison officer had become something of a spiritual leader for displaced humanity. "They told us we were too aggressive," Helen said, her voice carrying across the crowd through simple loudspeakers. "They said we were too competitive, too violent, too primitive. They wanted us to be like them, calm, cooperative, peaceful." The crowd listened intently. These were people who had lost everything when the aliens cast them out. They needed something to believe in. But maybe our aggression is not a flaw, Helen continued. Maybe our competitiveness is not a weakness. Maybe our refusal to accept limitations is exactly what makes us human. Someone in the crowd shouted, "What are you saying, Doctor?" Helen smiled. "I'm saying that every other species in the galaxy achieved advancement by becoming more alike. The Zephyrians think as one crystal mind. The collective shares all thoughts. The Lumina exist as pure energy without individual identity." She paused and looked across the sea of faces. "But humans become stronger by remaining individuals. We don't need to think alike to work together. We don't need to share minds to share goals. Our strength comes from pure power, the power of individual will, individual determination, individual refusal to accept defeat." The crowd began to cheer. For 5 years, they had felt ashamed of their exile from galactic civilization. Now someone was telling them that their exile might be the galaxy's mistake, not humanity's. In his private office, Director Amy Foster met with her top advisors. The reports on her desk showed remarkable progress despite the massive challenges. Agricultural output was increasing through intensive farming methods that aliens considered wasteful. Manufacturing was expanding using brute force industrial techniques that galactic species thought primitive. Most importantly, human research was advancing in directions the aliens had never explored. "The enhancement program is exceeding all expectations," Dr. Kate Williams reported. "We now have over 50,000 enhanced humans in key positions across the system. Their capabilities are remarkable." Admiral Tony Clark added his report. "The defense fleet now includes 300 combat vessels. They're not as sophisticated as alien ships, but they're more heavily armed and armored than anything we had before the exile." Engineer Carl Johnson spoke last. "Mining and manufacturing output has increased by 200%. The new fusion reactors are producing more power than our entire pre-exile infrastructure." Amy looked around the table at her advisors. 5 years ago, they had been broken refugees returning home in shame. Now they were becoming something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. 12 years had passed since humanity's exile, when the emergency broadcast came through the Deep Space Monitoring Station on Pluto. Communications. Officer Jenny Blake was running her usual midnight shift when the alien signal broke through the static. She had not heard an alien transmission in over a decade. The signal was weak and broken, filled with panic. Jenny adjusted the receivers, and slowly the message became clear. It was a Zephyrian distress call, but something was wrong. The crystal. Beings never showed emotion, but this voice was filled with terror. "Any human vessels, any human stations, this is Crystal Song of Dawn of the Zephyrian High Command. Our worlds are under attack. The Devourers have returned. We need immediate assistance." Jenny felt her heart race. She had studied the old galactic records during her training. The Devourers were mentioned in ancient alien legends as machine intelligences that consumed entire star systems. Most species considered them myths, stories told to frighten children. She quickly routed the signal to Earth Command and watched as alarms began sounding across the Sol system. Within an hour, every human leader was gathered in the emergency. Council Chamber Director Amy Foster stood before the main screen showing the incoming alien transmissions. The reports painted a terrifying picture. Dark ships had appeared at the galaxy's outer rim and begun systematically destroying everything in their path. Entire star systems were going dark, consumed by machines that seemed to eat matter itself. "How? Many worlds have been lost?" asked Admiral Tony Clark. Amy checked her data tablet. "According to these reports, 17 star systems in the past 6 months. The machines appear to be moving toward the galactic core, consuming everything as they advance." Dr. Kate Williams studied the alien descriptions of the attackers. "They call them Devourers, because they literally eat matter and convert it into more machines. Each victory makes them stronger. Engineer Carl Johnson reviewed the technical reports. The aliens tried everything: energy weapons, gravity bombs, dimensional disruptors. Nothing worked. The machines adapt to every attack. Amy looked around the room at her advisors. And now they want our help. The same species that cast us out as too primitive and violent. The debate that followed was heated. Many council members wanted to ignore the alien plea entirely. Why should humanity risk itself for species that had treated them as outcasts? Others argued that if the galaxy fell to the devourers, Earth would eventually face the same threat alone. 3 days later, a single alien ship approached the Sol system. It was a Zephyrian diplomatic vessel, its crystal hull dulled and scarred by battle damage. The ship requested permission to dock with Earth's orbital station. President Sam Davis, who had led humanity through the exile years, waited in the docking bay as the alien ambassador emerged. Crystal Song of Dawn looked different than she had 12 years ago. Her crystal body was cracked in several places, and her inner light flickered weakly. "President Davis," Zephyrian said, her voice lacking its usual musical quality. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." Sam gestured for her to follow him to a private meeting room. Behind them walked General Max Collins, now commander of the Enhanced Human Corps, and Admiral Tony Clark. The alien's eyes widened when she saw how the humans had changed. Both men were clearly enhanced. They moved with fluid grace despite their increased muscle mass. Their eyes held an alertness that seemed almost predatory. When they walked, the metal deck plates groaned under their weight. In the meeting room, Crystal Song of Dawn activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Nearly a quarter of the outer rim was now dark, consumed by the advancing Devourer fleet. "We underestimated the threat," she admitted. "The Devourers are not just machines. They are an intelligence beyond our understanding. They learn from every battle, adapt to every weapon we use against them." Sam leaned back in his chair. "And you want humanity's help? The same humanity you expelled for being too violent and primitive." The Zephyrian's light dimmed further. "We were wrong about your species. We see that now. But pride is a luxury we can no longer afford. The galaxy is dying." General Max Collins spoke for the first time. "What makes you think we can succeed where you failed?" Crystal Song of Dawn hesitated before answering. "Because you approach conflict differently than we do. We fight with precision and elegance. You fight with—" She searched for the right word. "Overwhelming force." Admiral Tony Clark smiled grimly. "You mean we fight dirty?" "Yes," the alien said simply. "And right now, dirty fighting might be our only hope." The negotiations continued for hours. The aliens offered to restore humanity's place in galactic civilization, return confiscated technology, and provide access to all trade routes. In exchange, they wanted human military assistance against the Devours. Sam called for a recess and gathered his advisors in a private room. "What do you think?" General Max Collins was direct. "It's a trap or it's not. Either way, we need to know what we're capable of. 12 years of isolation have changed us. This could be our chance to test just how much." Admiral Tony Clark agreed. "Our ships are ready. Our people are enhanced. If we're going to face this threat eventually anyway, better to do it with allies than alone." Dr. Kate Williams had been quiet during the negotiations, but now she spoke up. "There's something else to consider. My research shows that human genetic enhancement is still advancing. Combat situations might accelerate the process. We could learn things about ourselves that we never knew." Sam nodded slowly. "Then we fight, but on our terms." When the meeting resumed, Sam presented humanity's conditions. Human forces would operate under human command. They would choose their own targets and tactics. Most importantly, any technology or resources captured from the Devourers would belong to humanity. Crystal Song of Dawn agreed immediately. She was in no position to bargain. Within a week, the first human battle group left Sol System for the war zone. Admiral Tony Clark commanded from the flagship ESV Retribution, a massive vessel that demonstrated everything humanity had learned during their exile years. The ship was a monster compared to alien designs. Where alien vessels were graceful and efficient, the Retribution was brutal and overwhelming. Its armor was thick enough to stop planet-killer weapons. Its engines generated enough power to light up a small star. Its weapons could reduce moons to dust. As they approached the battle zone, the alien fleet that met them showed obvious shock at the human ships. Captain Steve Adams, commanding the heavy cruiser ESV Unstoppable, received a communication from Illumina Energy Being. Human vessel, your power readings are beyond our measurement capability. How is this possible? Steve smiled as he looked at his enhanced crew working at their stations. We stopped trying to be elegant and started trying to be effective. The first battle came at the edge of the Kepler system, where a Devourer scout fleet was consuming the outer planets. The alien forces had tried for weeks to stop them without success. Now it was humanity's turn. The battle began exactly as the aliens expected. The Devourers adapted to every weapon the combined fleet used against them. Energy beams became useless within minutes. Gravity weapons failed shortly after. The machines learned and countered each attack with mechanical precision. Then the human ships moved forward. Captain Nick Thompson commanded the destroyer ESV, relentless as it charged straight at the largest Devourer vessel. The machine's adaptive defenses prepared for another energy weapon or sophisticated attack. Instead, the human ship simply rammed into it at full speed. The impact should have destroyed both vessels, but the Relentless had been built to survive such collisions. Its reinforced hull punched through the machine's outer shell like a bullet through paper. Inside the Devourer ship, enhanced human Marines began tearing through the machine systems with their bare hands. Lieutenant Alex Turner led the boarding party deeper into the alien machine. His enhanced strength allowed him to rip apart metal, barriers that would stop normal humans. His improved reflexes let him dodge mechanical defenders that moved faster than human eyes could follow. Behind him, Sergeant Kim Davis carried a fusion charge that weighed more than a normal human could lift. The enhanced Marines moved through the machine like a storm of destruction, breaking everything they touched. The Devourer tried to adapt to this new attack, but there was nothing to adapt to. The humans were not using sophisticated technology or clever tactics. They were simply applying overwhelming physical force to everything in their path. When the fusion charge detonated inside the machine's core, the explosion sent energy pulses through the entire Devourer fleet. 3 more machines went dark immediately, their adaptive systems overloaded by the raw power of the blast. In the aftermath of the battle, Crystal Song of Dawn stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching human crews salvage the destroyed machines. The aliens had tried to study Devourer technology for months without success. The humans were taking it apart with crowbars and plasma torches. "I do not understand," she said to Admiral Tony Clark. "How did you succeed where we failed?" Tony looked at the wreckage floating in space around them. "You tried to outsmart them. We just hit them harder than they expected." Dr. Eric Moore, humanity's new combat scientist, approached with a tablet full of data. The war against the Devourers had been raging for 6 months when Fleet Admiral Tony Clark received the most challenging mission of his career. Intelligence reports showed that the largest Devourer fleet in galactic history was gathering at Proxima Nexus, preparing for a final push toward the core worlds. If they broke through, Billions of alien civilians would die. The combined galactic fleet had tried to stop them twice already. Both attempts ended in disaster. The Devourers had consumed the attacking ships and used their material to build even more machines. Now the alien commanders were paralyzed with fear, afraid to attack and afraid to retreat. Tony stood on the bridge of his flagship HFY Retribution, looking at the tactical display. The enemy fleet was massive, over 300 Devourer ships, ranging from destroyer-sized scouts to planet-eating dreadnoughts. Each machine was protected by adaptive shields that learned from every attack. "Sir, the Zephyrian Fleet Commander is requesting another strategy meeting," reported Communications Officer Jenny Blake. Tony shook his head. "Tell Crystal Song of Dawn that we're done with meetings. The aliens have been discussing tactics for weeks while the enemy gets stronger. It's time for action." Around him, his bridge crew worked with the focused intensity that came from genetic enhancement. Lieutenant Ben Harper monitored the fleet's power systems, which were running at levels that would terrify alien engineers. Captain Ryan Brooks coordinated with the Marine assault teams, enhanced soldiers who could survive in environments that would kill normal humans. Colonel Rachel Martinez floated in the zero-gravity combat bay of the assault ship Isheimer, checking her equipment one final time. Around her, 200 enhanced Marines prepared for what military historians would later call the most brutal space battle in galactic history. Rachel's body showed the results of years of genetic enhancement. She stood 7 feet tall, her muscles dense enough to stop small arms fire. Her reflexes were fast enough to dodge energy beams, and her bones were strong enough to punch through metal walls. More importantly, her mind was clear and focused in a way that normal humans could never achieve. "Listen up," she called to her Marines. "Intelligence says the Devourer command ship is protected by 50 layers of adaptive armor. Each layer learns from the attacks that destroy the ones before it." Sergeant Alex Turner, her second in command, grinned fiercely. "So we hit it with 51 different attacks." Rachel nodded. "That's exactly right. No fancy tactics, no clever strategies. We're going to smash through their defenses with pure brute force until something breaks." The battle began with the alien fleets engaging the Devourer outer screen. Zephyrian crystal ships fired precision energy beams, while collective hive vessels launched swarms of guided missiles. The Lumina energy beings attacked with dimensional weapons that could fold space itself. For the first hour, the aliens achieved some success. Several Devourer ships were destroyed before their adaptive systems could compensate. But then the machines began to learn, and the alien weapons became increasingly ineffective. Captain Nick Thompson watched from the bridge of the ESV, relentless as alien ships began exploding around them. The Devourers had adapted to every sophisticated weapon in the galactic arsenal. Now the machine fleet was advancing toward the core worlds with nothing to stop them. "All human ships, this is Admiral Clark," came the voice over the communication system. "Execute Operation Sledgehammer." Nick smiled grimly and turned to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Take us straight at their command ship. Full power, no finesse." The human fleet charged forward like a pack of wolves. Where the alien ships had tried to maintain formation and fight with precision, the human vessels simply aimed for the biggest targets and opened fire with everything they had. The ESV Unstoppable, commanded by Captain Steve Adams, led the charge. The heavy cruiser's fusion cannons fired continuously, each shot releasing more energy than most alien ships could generate in an hour. The crude weapons lacked the precision of alien technology, but they hit with such devastating force that adaptation became irrelevant. "Target the big one in the center," Steve ordered his weapons officer. "Hit it with everything we've got." Lieutenant Kim Davis, operating the main gun battery, unleashed a barrage that lit up space like a new sun. The massive projectiles, each one the size of a small building, slammed into the Devourer command ship with the force of nuclear explosions. The machine's adaptive shields tried to compensate, but the human weapons were too simple and too powerful. There was nothing sophisticated to analyze, nothing elegant to counter. The projectiles were just chunks of dense metal, moving at incredible speed, and they punched through every defense like hammers through glass. Meanwhile, Colonel Rachel Martinez and her assault team prepared for the most dangerous part of the mission. The ESV Hammer had fought its way close enough to launch boarding pods directly at the damaged command ship. "Remember," Rachel told her, "Marines as they climbed into the assault pods, these machines think like computers. They expect logical attacks, coordinated strategies, predictable tactics. We're going to give them chaos." The boarding pods launched like bullets from a gun, each one carrying 20 enhanced Marines toward the enemy vessel. The Devourers fired defensive weapons, but the pods were too small and fast to target effectively. Most importantly, they were too simple. There were no computers to hack, no systems to disrupt. They were just metal shells carrying very angry humans. Rachel's pod punched through the outer hull of the command ship and crashed into a corridor filled with mechanical defenders. The Marines poured out like a flood of destruction, their enhanced bodies moving faster than the machines could track. Sergeant Alex Turner grabbed a Devourer repair unit and simply tore it in half with his bare hands. The machine had been designed to resist energy weapons and cutting tools, but not the grip strength of an enhanced human who could crush steel. Private Lisa Carter used her enhanced speed to dodge between laser beams while carrying a fusion charge toward the ship's power core. The Devourers tried to stop her with mechanical barriers, but she simply punched through them. Her fists, strengthened by genetic enhancement, could shatter metal like glass. The deeper they went into the ship, the more chaotic the battle became. The Marines fought without coordination or strategy, each one attacking whatever target seemed most important. The Devourers, designed to counter organized military tactics, couldn't adapt to random acts of destruction. Back on the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Tony Clark watched as human ships continued their relentless assault. The ESV Guardian, commanded by Captain Van Foster, had rammed directly through a Devourer battleship, its reinforced hull surviving the impact. Enhanced Marines were now fighting inside both vessels simultaneously. "Sir, we're receiving reports from all assault teams," reported Lieutenant Ben Harper. "They're making progress throughout the enemy fleet." Tony nodded. The human approach was working exactly as planned. Instead of trying to outsmart the machines, they were simply overpowering them. Where alien tactics relied on precision and efficiency, human tactics relied on overwhelming force and individual initiative. Commander Josh Lai was piloting a one-man fighter deep inside the Devourer formation when he spotted his target, a massive sphere covered in sensor arrays that seemed to be coordinating the entire enemy fleet. Intelligence had identified it as the Superintelligence Core, the machine brain that controlled all Devourer operations in this sector. "This is Lee to all units," he broadcast. "I've found their command center. I'm going in." His fighter was damaged and barely functional, but Josh pushed it toward the target at maximum speed. The Devourers fired everything they had at him, but his enhanced reflexes allowed him to dodge through the defensive fire like he was dancing dot as he approached the Superintelligence Core. Josh armed the fusion warhead mounted in his fighter's nose. The explosion would destroy his ship, but his enhanced body might survive long enough to manually detonate the weapon from inside the target. The impact threw Josh through the fighter's canopy and into the mechanical depths of the Superintelligence Core. His enhanced bones didn't break despite the tremendous force. His enhanced muscles still functioned despite massive injuries. Most importantly, his enhanced determination kept him conscious long enough to reach the manual detonator. The explosion that followed was visible from 3 star systems away. The superintelligence core disappeared in a ball of nuclear fire that sent energy pulses throughout the Devourer fleet. Without their central coordination, the machines began attacking each other, their adaptive systems confused by conflicting signals. In the aftermath of the battle, Crystal Song of Dawn stood among the wreckage of what had been the largest Devourer fleet in galactic history. Around her, human ships moved through the debris field, their crews salvaging everything useful from the destroyed machines. She found Admiral Tony Clark supervising the recovery operations from the bridge of his battered flagship. The human looked tired but satisfied, like a warrior who had just won an impossible victory. "How?" she asked simply. Tony looked at the tactical display showing the scattered remains of the enemy fleet. "You aliens are too smart for your own good. You tried to fight machines with technology, intelligence with intelligence." 6 months after the destruction of the Devourer superintelligence, Admiral Lara White stood on the bridge of the massive command ship ESV Ascendant as it approached the rebuilt Galactic Council station. The human vessel dwarfed every other ship in the area, its bulk casting shadows over the elegant alien craft that had once seemed so impressive. Lara herself was a sight that would have terrified the aliens who first expelled humanity. The genetic enhancement process had continued to evolve during the war, and she now stood 8 feet tall with muscles that could bend steel bars. Her eyes held an intelligence sharpened by combat, and her presence commanded respect from everyone around her. "Ma'am, the alien delegates are requesting permission to come aboard," reported Communications Officer Ben Harper. Himself enhanced to superhuman levels. Laura smiled coldly. "Tell them they can wait. We'll meet them in the council chamber when we're ready." The irony was not lost on her. 15 years ago, humans had begged for acceptance from these same alien species. They had followed every rule, respected every custom, tried desperately to prove they belonged among the stars. Now the aliens waited nervously for human approval. In the council chamber, representatives from all 15 galactic species sat in uncomfortable silence. Crystal Song of Dawn represented the Zephyrians, her crystal body still showing scars from battles against the Devourers. The collective's hive mind speaker twitched nervously, unused to dealing with individual personalities as strong as the ENCHANCED humans. The Lumina energy being flickered with uncertainty. When the human delegation entered, the difference was immediately obvious. Where the aliens sat quietly in their assigned seats, the humans dominated the room simply by existing. Each one was clearly enhanced, moving with predatory grace and radiating an aura of barely controlled power. Admiral Lara White took her place at the head of the table, not in the seat assigned to humanity, but in the position traditionally reserved for the council chairman. None of the aliens objected. "Let's begin," Lara said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber without amplification. "I assume you all know why we're here." The Lumina collective mind spoke first, its voice sounding like distant thunder. "Admiral White, the Galactic Council wishes to formally thank humanity for its assistance in defeating the Devourer threat. We are prepared to restore your species to full galactic citizenship." Lara leaned back in her chair and laughed, a sound that made several aliens flinch. "Restore us? You think this is about restoration?" She activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic space. Nearly 30% of former Devourer territory was now marked in human blue, claimed by right of conquest. "We're not here to be restored to anything," Lavra continued. "We're here to establish the new order. Humanity is taking its place as the dominant power in this galaxy, and you're going to help us do it." Crystal Song of Dawn's light dimmed with what might have been fear. "Admiral, surely we can reach some accommodation that benefits all species." "We can," Lavra agreed, "but it will be on human terms." Dr. Paul Rogers, Earth's new Director of Galactic Affairs, stood and began reading from a tablet. His enhanced voice carried to every corner of the chamber without effort. First, humanity claims exclusive rights to all former Devourer territories. These worlds will be settled by human colonists according to human law. The collective speaker twitched violently. But those territories contain hundreds of worlds suitable for multiple species. Surely they should be shared. Paul looked at the alien with barely concealed contempt. You had your chance to fight for them. You failed. We succeeded. The territories are ours. He continued reading. Second, all galactic trade routes will be open to human vessels without restriction or taxation. Any attempt to limit human commerce will be considered an act of war. The assembled aliens exchanged nervous glances. During the war, they had seen what human weapons could do. The thought of facing those weapons in anger was terrifying. Third, Paul continued, humanity will have equal representation in all galactic decisions, with veto power over any resolution that affects human interests. Zephyrian delegate finally found her voice. Admiral White, these terms are quite generous to your species. What assurance do we have that humanity will use its power responsibly? Lavra stood and walked to the chamber's main window, looking out at the human fleet surrounding the station. Each ship was a monument to human determination and engineering. Ugly by alien standards, but undeniably powerful. You want assurance? She said without turning around. Here's your assurance. We could have destroyed every one of your species during the war. We had the power and the opportunity. But we chose to save you instead. She turned back to face the aliens. We're not asking for your trust. We're telling you how things are going to be. You can accept it, or you can try to fight us. I think we both know how that would end. The negotiations continued for 3 days, but the outcome was never in doubt. The aliens had no choice but to accept human terms. Their own fleets had been decimated fighting the Devourers, while humanity emerged from the war stronger than ever. Captain Dan Foster commanded the first human colonization fleet to leave Sol system since the exile. His destination was the former Devourer sector, a region of space containing hundreds of worlds, rich in resources and free of alien claims. The ships in his fleet were nothing like the desperate evacuation vessels that had carried refugees home 15 years earlier. These were purpose-built colony ships, each one capable of establishing a self-sufficient settlement within months of landing. More importantly, they carried enhanced humans who could survive and thrive in environments that would kill normal colonists. Sir, we're approaching the target system, reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Kim Davis. Dan looked at the display showing their destination, a yellow star with 7 planets, 3 of them suitable for human habitation. The Devourers had consumed the original ecosystem, but human terraforming technology could restore life to the worlds within a decade. Signal the fleet, Dan ordered. We're going to build something here that the galaxy has never seen before. A civilization based on pure human power. Back on Earth, the new Geneva Military Academy had become the most prestigious training facility in human space. Young cadets from across the Sol system competed for admission to the school that produced humanity's elite soldiers and leaders. Instructor, Commander Grace Turner, stood before a class of 200 cadets, each one showing the early signs of genetic enhancement. These young people had been born after the exile, raised on stories of humanity's struggle and triumph. They would never know the shame of being rejected by the galaxy. Who can tell me why humanity succeeded where the other galactic species failed? Grace asked. A cadet in the front row raised her hand. Because we used overwhelming force instead of sophisticated tactics, Mom. Correct, Grace said, but that's not the complete answer. Anyone else? Another cadet spoke up. Because we refused to accept limitations that others considered absolute, Mom. Grace nodded approvingly. Better, but there's still more. The real reason we succeeded is because we never stopped being human. The aliens wanted us to become like them, collective, cooperative, peaceful. Instead, we became more human than ever. Before, she walked among the cadets, her enhanced form towering over the young trainees. Every other species in the galaxy achieved advancement by suppressing their individual nature. They became hive minds, energy collectives, crystal matrices. They gained sophistication but lost something essential. Grace stopped at the center of the classroom. Humanity chose a different path. We enhanced our individual capabilities while maintaining our individual will. We became stronger, faster, smarter, but we remained fundamentally human. That combination of enhanced ability and human determination is what saved the galaxy. A cadet raised her hand. Ma'am, what about the aliens who expelled us? Do we forgive them? Grace considered the question carefully. We don't need to forgive. Them, cadet. We've already proven them wrong. They thought we were too violent, too competitive, too primitive. But it was exactly those qualities that made us capable of defeating an enemy they couldn't handle. She activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic civilization. Human territories now covered a third of known space, marked in blue across the star charts. Human ships patrolled trade routes that had been closed to them. For over a decade, human colonies thrived on worlds that aliens had considered impossible to settle. The galaxy cast us out because they feared what we might become, Grace continued. Now they know. We became exactly what they were afraid of, a species with unlimited potential and the will to use it. In his private office aboard the orbital, stationed above Earth, President Sam Davis met with his senior advisors to review the monthly reports. The numbers told an incredible story of human expansion and growth. Colony establishment is ahead of schedule in all sectors, reported Dr. Kate Williams, now Director of Human Development. The enhanced colonists are adapting to environments that would have been impossible for baseline humans. Admiral Tony Clark, promoted to Supreme Commander of Human Forces, added his report. Fleet construction continues to exceed projections.